Right, so it's nearly been a week and another new movie has come out for me to go see. And it is a DC movie, which is not filling me with the most confidence since the first film they put out, Man of Steel, was very overblown and filled with odd symbolism and meaningless destruction. The second film, Batman v Superman, was the bitch fight of 2017, which ended in a whole bunch of meaningless stuff and didn't really account to anything. And then there was later on in the year when whatever the hell Suicide Squad was supposed to be, but now we have Wonder Woman, the newest film in the DCEU lineup. And is this the one to break the curse of being an actually decent and good DC movie? Yes, it actually is. How so? Well, let's talk about that now. The 2017 film Wonder Woman, starring Gal Gadot, has her in the lead role of Diana Prince, Princess of Themyscira, a paradise island where Amazonians like herself live in harmony who were created by the Greek gods to help protect the follies of man. Once the Greek gods were betrayed by one of their own gods, Hades, the god of war, they ended up following themselves, locking them away from humanity. But it appears that they've been locked away for so long that humanity is starting to tear itself apart again, under the guise of the First World War. Diana believes that this is the work of Hades, and sets out to find him and get rid of him once and for all. Is she right about this quest, or is humanity as corruptible as her mother warns? The film is getting a lot of positive buzz right now, which is very interesting considering the past bunch of DC films have been not that well critically received. On top of that, not being very good movies. I've historically gone on about my opinions of the last bunch of movies that there have been, and for thoughts of this film, I was actually pleasantly surprised, because the rumours are true and this film is very good. The short answer being that you should probably consider going to go see it, but there is a pretty big asterisk. It's like, this is an average movie at best. It isn't anything fantastic, but considering the kind of schlock that we've been getting from DC and Warner Brothers these past few years, it is very much refreshing to see a superhero film where the hero is actually concerned about human life and wants to protect it, rather than constantly destroying and not really caring about the people they're supposed to be protecting. Looking at you, Superman, you haven't been doing that well for us. So what does this make of this? So how does this film compare in a bunch of other movies? Particularly, it is unfair to compare a lot of DC's films right now to Marvel because they've had many years under their belt. It's pretty easy to compare this first outing of Wonder Woman to the likes of Captain America or Thor, considering that it's set during a wartime film, this one being the First World War, and it also has to deal with a mythical being coming from another form of life and having to adapt to modern life. Well, modern for the time. And the adapting to fish out of water story kind of stuff is a little silly at points, but it's actually delivered pretty well. The main character isn't daft, ditzy, or silly about what's going on, so she's actually just trying to figure out how this world works and how she can fit in it. And also trying to figure out the quickest way to get to the war in order to stop what's happening. Then there's a whole bunch of other characters we get to meet along the way, like Steve Trevor, played by Chris Pine, who does a pretty good job as his main side character. A character who bounces off Wonder Woman throughout most of the movie. And a lot of her humor is pretty well sought out, like it's a pretty realistic relationship of someone who managed to meet this mysterious woman on an island. And with all the crazy stuff he's seen and experienced during that time on that island, he's pretty easygoing for what happens. A bunch of other characters throughout the film, while not the most memorable, were pretty enjoyable for what I remember for the most part. They stood out in their own ways, but they didn't hog the spotlight too long, so I wasn't constantly annoyed by their presence, and they seemed to deliver their part very well. The main villains of the movie are probably what let it down the most, but then again that's not really saying much, as I am a huge fan of Marvel movies and they don't really have very great villains. But the villains of the DC cinematic universe so far have not been that grandiose either, as they have fallen victim to trying to make themselves serious and threatening, but acting a lot more silly than any of the heroes do. Like, they're just hamming it up, enjoying the time that they have on screen. Which is like, it's great that you're having fun, but it's very not threatening when you're seeing your main characters, main villains, following that we're supposed to feel threatened with the movie, acting around like children while they're killing off their own division of henchmen or their other authorities. and it's a bit off-putting at times. But all in all, they serve their purpose, and the main focus is on Diana Prince and how she deals with the actions of war. And what is the big takeaway from this movie is how much she wants to protect the people of the world, and she is very heartbroken when there are times where she cannot protect them, where she has to try to move on to get to the next point. And it is a very heart-wrenching kind of scenes, as she actually genuinely concerned for human life. As mentioned before, Superman didn't seem to be focused on that, more focused on defeating the enemy, but it just looked like he didn't care about humans at all. Wonder Woman clearly cares about the world and wants to protect it, so it's very refreshing to see a hero want to do that. And she has a pretty good performance. Other few faults of the films, the CG is not up to snuff, and while there are definitely excellent action sequences, a standout scene is when she's battling on no man's land against the Germans' advance, was very breathtaking and kept in a moment of suspense. Until she starts jumping around, to which a very obvious CG model jumps in and takes over the most of the action, and it's very distracting. So, if that's a thing that concerns you, I'd warn you about that. And the ending turns into a giant laser light show, so that might be a bit of a problem. If you don't like how most of the Marvel movies end off in that way, then yeah, this ending probably isn't going to satisfy your needs. But for what it is worth, I definitely enjoyed and was glad that I saw it. And I'm definitely hopeful for whatever DC has to offer in the future of their movies. If they continue to go down this route of focusing on making good movies of their own sort and make them uplifting, be heroes we want to admire to be like, the way DC's heroes are supposed to be, these giant glowing humans or beings of amazing power who we want to aspire to be better to become, then that would be grand. Let Marvel do their thing, and DC are good at doing this thing. You just need to stick to that. You don't have to be so grandiose and overdramatic and filled with symbolism of religion and all that garbage, as that's not needed. We just need an admirable hero to look upon in the most bleakest circumstances, and Wonder Woman fills that role perfectly. For a film, that is a pretty fun ride. Not the best, but I'll take what I can get. Anyway, that's me done with this for now. All I have to say is, we got one more episode of Spider-Man. Woohoo!